Hello and welcome to So Farscape,
a fun-filled Farscape fan cast by a fervent fan
and a fresh-faced first-timer.
I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay, and this is the story So Farscape.
So the story So Farscape involves a scientist jock, John Crichton.
Yes, who has been travelled through a wormhole in time and space to a strange part of the galaxy, now on board the living ship Moya, along with some weird alien companions.
The biomechanoid Leviathan Moya.
We hear that word a lot in this episode, biomechanoid.
Yep, really emphasizing, hey, it's a biomechanoid. We have the lovely Zan. She's beautiful and blue.
The fierce Tentacles, who is mostly red. You're
right.
Occasionally he wears his space pajamas and he's wearing black, but most of the time he's just wearing his
silk black gi. I love it so much.
Dargo green or black? Well, the black, of course.
And then we've got Cretinous Rigel,
who dresses in great finery because he is the dominar of over 600 billion Hynerians.
And Flippant Aaron.
Flippant Aaron, I like that. Okay.
I mean,
you're getting closer to giving her a nickname.
I guess so, yeah.
Actually, have you come up with anything better for Zan? Because I thought the last one stuck on Misty Blue, and I think...
No.
I mean, you're great at nicknames, but I think that one's a little bit...
I don't know, Space Dots? No, that's not going to work either.
Space Dots? Why Space Dots?
She's got all those beautiful little patterned dots on her skin and everything.
The pattern of her makeup is so gorgeous.
I wonder if they did that, if they used a template for that, or just if they had like those vinyl slap-ons, or...
I don't know a whole lot about makeup, but I have seen a fair number of like science fiction behind-the-scenes ones where you get like 4.5 seconds out of the like 2.5 hours of makeup that someone goes through, and there's a lot of like stencil... what is it called? You make like a stamp. You take a sponge and you cut it.
Oh, okay. So, that's stamping,
Yeah, exactly. So because she has the sort of pattern of diamond-shaped spots on her forehead between the eyebrows that sort of fades out. So I sort of imagine that someone would have cut a stamp.
I know that for Mystique they used lots of prosthetics as well, which were just basically...
From the X-Men?
Yes. That they used to just overlay. But she, of course, had lots of ridges and protrusions as well, which needed to be included.
She had very textured skin,
in her scales almost occasionally. So that had to be included. So I know that a lot of that was just slap-on.
I imagine that it was even harder on Dargo, who has so much latex on his face.
Oh, yes.
It's not my face they are afraid of, Dargo.
Do it to my face so we'll see more left standing.
Oh, God, what would be real? It's just his eyes and his fingertips,
and his mouth.
I guess.
Anything, all the mouth...
Covered by moustache.
His lips are definitely his own. I mean, that's very clear
that's
to
right.
see.
So he's got eyes, lips, and fingertips. And really, what more do you need to have a good time?
Well, with your prosthetics on. your makeup prosthetics.
And of course, we have Pilot, who is bonded with the Leviathan. And of course, we have Moya herself. I mean, she's also a character on the show.
She's a biomechanoid character.
She is their mother and their partner, their
and their horse.
And their horse. Yes, we get a new metaphor. Gosh, hey, so this is episode 10. We've had a lot of adventures so far, but I don't think that we've had a show that was... Well, okay. We've had an episode before that was entirely set on the ship. That was with...
the Drag Queen.
Yeah, exactly. But they've always had an enemy or even multiple enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And this time, there was no one. Like, the only characters that really feature are the core characters. They don't have anyone external.
Not actually there, no.
So, before we get into the episode, what's been your favorite villain so far?
Haven't you read the Supervillain's Handbook? This is where you're supposed to twirl your mustache and gloat.
Because all the episodes have had, like, a villain.
I mean, last week's episode wasn't... He was all right. But in a villainous way, I think my favorite villain so far is still Captain Crace, sorry.
Yes, played by the dreamy Lani Tupu.
Yes.
Yeah, whom we haven't really seen that much of. Like, we saw him in the first episode. He was established as the villain, and then he came back in that old Black Magic episode 8,
which actually had a weak villain.
I'm getting tired of appetizers. It's time to dine.
Is that supposed to motivate me?
No.
You're right, because that was Maldis, and we weren't fans of his.
And that episode did a lot of character development for
Crace. Yeah, we learned about his backstory as a rural, I guess, Sebastian who was conscripted as a child.
Which was interesting. compared to something that Aaron told us this episode, that they're born and bred upon ships.
Yeah,
so that's
right.
a bit of a discontinuity there. So I was wondering how exactly that happened.
Well, I mean, this episode does a lot to fill in other characters' backstory. In particular, Dargo, and I think also Moya. So this week's episode of Farscape that we're discussing here is episode 10 of season 1, titled "They've Got a Secret." Although in my on my file here, it's called "They Have Got a Secret," and I appreciate that there's no contractions there.
Right. I mean, the biggest secret here is not them, but either Dargo or Moya. I guess they both have a secret, so then it still becomes appropriate to the title.
I kind of would like to sort of emphasize that I did say contraction here because that is going to come back up later. And this was written... No, it'll come up organically, I'm sure. Written by Sally Lapiduss, who also did IET, the second episode. Those are her only 2 credits on Farscape. And it's the directorial debut of Ian Watson, who's going to come up in a few more episodes in the future.
Okay.
First aired on Friday, the 25th of June, 1999.
Stepping into the far back machine.
Time and space. Look, the wormhole does the time, and then your far back machine does the
space.
The other way around.
So what we have, another series that aired around the same time as that Farscape started, was called 7 Days. It was, and also a series in which a man gets into a strange apparatus.
Yes.
And in this case gets flung not through space, but through time.
Movement at speed through space becomes movement through time.
Einstein again, 1905.
Yes.
You know the series?
I do. Kay, this podcast came very close to being about 7 days. I came very close to petitioning you to watch 7 Days with me because, I think it's fantastic.
I mean, I've seen at least the first season of it, so we wouldn't be able to do the same thing as we're doing with this podcast.
With your complete virginal innocence. Yes. No, I get you. 7 Days. I forget what the name of the actor was who played the protagonist, but yeah, like he operates this module that allows him to travel back in time.
Yes,
7 days.
Exactly, and only exactly 7 days. He's selected for it because apparently he has a very high pain tolerance. It's called the Backstep Project, and he has to whenever there's something has occurred during the next 7 days that needs to be undone, he gets put into the machine and he has to ride the needle. He has to keep it right there in the center because apparently, well, as you're traveling through time and space, Earth moves,
you get
of course.
jolted.
So you have to move. You have to like steer the craft basically, and apparently it's quite a painful experience to travel in it. So therefore, he has a very high pain tolerance. He's a test pilot or something, and he has to ride it out.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of like cool story hooks that they had. Like the module itself was based on a Roswell crash technology from Area 51 that had a limited amount of fuel.
So yeah, they can only use it for hyper important things that had gone vitally wrong, like nuclear power plants exploding and other things.
And his like love interest / handler was a Russian woman named Olga.
Yeah, who was working on the same thing for the Russian technology. Although I'm not quite sure how they had their hands on Roswell technology, but you know.
No, they had their own crash. The Russians had their own backstep program.
Right. And whenever he arrived, then he had to like dial into the operations center with the code word that it was him. Although I would have always thought that at a certain point they must notice that suddenly the craft has disappeared. Because there was like shots with an empty cradle and everything in there.
This is a whole new. You are right. Yes, there is only one version of the craft at any given time. Okay, so it is mentioned that he still exists twice during that 7 day period. When he goes back in time, he has to call in, and then his counterpart is put into isolation.
Right, because he's never allowed to leave the base.
And you like never see that. You never see. Like I always wondered, what would an episode be like if we just follow the dude who, you know, the version of him that doesn't travel back in, because he eventually has to get into in order to prevent an ontological paradox.
I don't know. That's like that they lampshade that, they completely gloss over it, and it never gets really addressed how that part of the time travel works.
I mean, there is one episode where there are 2 of them where there's an accident and he gets split into 2, and it was just really well done. You had moving cameras and everything, and it was just 2 versions of the same actor.
Nice.
Like, yeah, that show was great.
It was. So
you got me so excited for 7 days now. Let's just pause the podcast and just talk about 7 days all the time.
Next week you will have a spin-off episode on.
Don't promise them that. Don't promise them that.
Speaking of promises,
Okay, before I lose control, no, you're very good. Let's talk about episode 110 of Farscape. They have got a secret.
Okay.
I appreciate the an episode title without contractions.
Prepare for starburst!
So we start off with a Doctor Who crossover where Aaron and Dargo are wielding sonic screwdrivers.
Aaron and Dargo. Oh, you're right. Oh my god, yeah. Hey, good on Erin for finally touching a scanning device.
Yes, she's like clearly moving into the engineering territory and not like deeming that below her anymore.
Tech's using, not infantry.
She's not scared of the tech cooties that these devices will have. Yeah, because they're moving through Moya looking for peacekeeper technology.
Yeah, which apparently has been left more than the
paddock beacon from episode 2. Hey, that was also Sally Lapiduss.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and also the control collar from the first episode, of course.
Oh yeah,
which
very
is like,
good.
The thing, but yeah, that is an interesting connection. That it's also the same director who did that. So I wonder if they did
writer. The director is Ian Watson.
Right.
Okay, I think it's kind of a shame that Sally Lapiduss didn't come back after this, because I'm actually a fan of both episodes. I know that IET was generally not very well received by the fans because, you know, it feels kind of out of place, I guess, with what the rest of the show wound up being. But I kind of like these talky, character-driven stories in between the huge like action adventures that we usually get.
So I noticed that Pilot's arm's grown back.
Yeah.
That's useful. Good for him.
That went quick, didn't it?
Yeah, well, we don't know how much time this was. Like, there's never any indication of how much time was spent. Not much at all.
That is... Well, okay, with these kind of television programs that came out every week for 6 months, 22 episodes, you're kind of supposed to assume that it's about 1 to 2 weeks. So between a day and 2 or 3 weeks. Because a year is about a year, generally.
Yeah. Dargo goes crawling through one of the hatches from the DRD hatches, which he previously couldn't fit through, so he must have lost some weight or something. Because I seem to recall the problem that we had to chase Rigel into those hatches, and because nobody else could fit in there.
You're completely right. That was also Sally Lapiduss' last script. The last time around, it also started in a hallway of Moya, and he was also like down on his belly, and he could only fit his head through.
Exactly.
Now, of course, Anthony Simcoe hadn't been fitted with his much better prosthetics yet, though.
Fair point.
So now he could actually turn his head. But yeah, I guess since then, Dargo's been doing some space yoga and he's limbered up. So now he can squeeze through the little kiddie holes.
He goes crawling through the Jeffries tubes of Moya's or whatever, and he finds a weird peacekeeper device, which kind of looks a little bit like the same thing that was disabled by... Rigel in that other episode.
Yeah, you're right. Like it's also wrapped around what looks like some kind of fibers or tendons.
Pilot, I found some Peacekeeper control panel.
Can you confirm?
Yes, these are Peacekeeper markings. Tell me what I should do with it.
Be very careful which one pull.
Pilot, I can't understand you. What should I do?
And thanks to a bit of radio static, he gets the don't tug it, don't pull it order wrong, and he just hears pull it or something. He gives it a yank, he gets zapped and shocked, goes sliding down the space slip and slide. Down
I had slip and slide too. Sorry, that was a high five. That's what we do when we write down the same note.
Yeah. Basically up and down, sliding his way down further in until he stops again and finds another peacekeeper device, a peacekeeper shield, as it is later described, which promptly sprays him with some sort of goo. And he
kicked it first.
Oh, that's it. Yeah,
he just does. What should I do with it?
What should I do? I have a Peacekeeper device down here.
Dargo, some kind of peacekeeper what?
Okay, fine. I'll just smash it, and then he smashes it,
and it
gets sprayed with the fairy dust.
Something erupts out. It's wetter than fairy dust, I think. What?
Okay. Well, you've just named the episode, but
wetter than fairy dust.
Just listen. I don't want to make too big a point of it, but you really have just done that.
And it promptly gets ejected out of the ship, and we see him floating through space.
Wow. And throughout all this, like there's been some bits of business where they're communicating with Pilot, who's coordinating all this.
Yes.
Pilot, who's been very snippy with everyone.
How much longer do you expect this to take?
That is not a legitimate question. Considering, as I have just stated, I have no data on how many Peacekeeper devices may still be concealed. It will take as long as it takes.
He was acting very strange.
Right?
Yes. I also noticed that his holo unit had improved again. It was looking much clearer. In some later shots, there was a little bit of scan lines, but most of the time it was like super...
It's full-on HD. Like, it's amazing how it progressed in just 10 episodes from black and white Betamax in the first episode.
To now
and then
nice high-def...
Yeah.
I guess they wanted to show Pilot off a little bit more, have him not be quite so mysterious anymore, because he's been having more of a part. Point. They can actually show him off more and not have him as this weird entity thing, because we learn more and more about Pilot.
Yeah. I wonder also if maybe that was a sort of economic concern, I guess. I mean, okay, so starting off with the scan lines and the sort of almost analog technology, like that's really cool to set it apart from Star Trek and Star Wars, where it's much more perfect. Actually, it's much closer to Star Wars, where you have a lot of those scan lines things as well, very analog representations. And then after you've done that a few times, it's kind of an expensive visual effect.
I suppose.
To do like 3D scan lines and spherical and stuff.
I guess maybe they didn't have to spend a lot of other tech tokens in this episode, because there's not a lot in the way of the special effects in this episode.
Nor, frankly, props, because we start off with Aaron getting a piggyback ride from John.
Yep.
Have they not ladders?
No, well, he specifically offers that he was going to get her something to stand on, but that she declined, and apparently this is more efficient or something. I don't know.
Well, and I guess it's another proximity alert, because they're always they're always shoving up together. Those two,
they are, and he does get a nice little shock when he's got his ear between her thighs.
Yes, he is her mount and her conductor, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm getting some sort of proximity alarm.
I should have worn rubber soles.
He should have worn prophylactics. That's right. So, okay, there is a little bit of CGI there, because Dargo, when he's going through through Moya's, I guess, sinuses or upper Leviathan tubes, that's all kind of 3D. Cool CGI stuff. When he's sliding down,
I thought they just made a tunnel, because
they did once he comes to a halt, but there's a lot of sliding down.
I actually thought I saw a security cable that was anchoring him or something when he was sliding down those things.
Very good.
Yeah, I thought he was just they literally threw him down a slip and slide or something, which they'd nicely decorated with more Moya ribs or whatever they're called.
Yeah, it was a cool shape. It was sort of wide and oval at the bottom, and then very narrow at the top. Sort of like, I guess the...
fallopian tubes?
Oof.
I don't know what they're supposed to look like, so...
Well, no, none of us have ever been inside them. Actually, technically... half of our DNA has been inside them at one point. Yeah, okay. So, hey, cool. Reproductive biology.
So, yes, Erin goes out in her, what's it called again? Scrambler?
Prowler.
Prowler,
very good. Did you notice that she angled the engines?
The thrusters, yes.
That was so cool, because it's got these sort of sharp prongs on the side of what we'd call wings. I mean, obviously it isn't.
No.
It's sort of a trident when it's flying.
Engine
and then
pods,
she turned them upright. I don't know exactly how she grabbed him.
Got him.
No, that was she was wearing a spacesuit. Maybe she just opened up her cabin or something and pulled him in. It's
just sort of lashed him down with some elastic bands.
Yeah, it's unclear, but yeah, basically he gets flown in. He's a little bit blue in the lips, but other than that, he's slightly frosty. Looks surprisingly well for someone who's been out in space for half an hour.
He's frozen stiff and he isn't breathing.
Frozen solid? No, that's nonsense. You don't freeze solid.
And also apparently they can last up to 15 minutes without much problem, and half an hour is a little bit critical.
So they need to revive him, and Crichton immediately practices proper American jock medicine. He makes a two-handed fist with his fingers interlinked, because that's how you get maximum force and break all the bones in your hand when you smash something. Yeah. And smacks him on the chest.
John, what are you doing? Stop! Hasn't he suffered enough? That won't help.
That's really only you're supposed to use when you need to restart someone's heart, and
yeah.
So
now, okay, fair. You look at Dargo, you think that dude's got ribs. You want to get to his heart.
Yeah, but he doesn't even know that's where he keeps his heart,
right?
Yeah.
My hearts are private places. Stay out of them.
As Zahn then corrects him, hey, John, stop that.
Yeah,
that's not going to do anything.
Flips him over.
Please stop.
Stabs him with a syringe, which brings him around pretty quick.
And he wakes up and he immediately calls for Pilot until he sees Zahn, and then he sort of softens and smiles in a way that we've never seen him do before, even when he was high on Tannet root in Thank God It's Friday Again.
He gets a very fond expression and, seems to be not quite there yet.
caressing Zan's face.
In a very intimate way, yes, which Zan responds to.
How do you feel, Dago?
I'll be all right.
Kindly, gently, she has a lovely smile. To be held in those arms the way that she's holding Dargo, what a blessing that must be.
Pilot is starting to talk a little bit strange at this point.
You feeling okay?
I'm working on it.
Yeah, he's doing the whole, oh, no, I'm fine, I'm here. And everyone can hear, what, dude, just go to the toilet. Like, you sound super constipated.
Something's not right. And Crichton and Erin go off to find what Dargo was up to. And they try to extract information from Pilot about where he was, and Pilot is kind of vague about it, like maybe on deck 22.
Which suggests that Moya's pretty big.
We know Moya's pretty big.
That's big. That's big.
It's very big.
That's really big.
Don't I know it?
What do you think the scale is of Moya? Because we don't really have a huge sense of scale. We have two real clues.
Yeah.
We have the exterior shots where you see some lights, which I think are supposed to be windows.
That's what
usually
I think,
on spaceships.
And there's multiple tiers of those, so you can tell that, 22. I mean, she's probably about the size of the Enterprise.
The Enterprise D, you think?
Maybe not the D, but
So the other thing that we get is her her docking compartment, which is very spacious.
Which is also very huge, yeah.
Yeah,
we just saw that peacekeeper ship flying in with room to spare.
Oh, yeah, and it seemed like there was even multiple docks.
Yeah, she's a big girl. Prowling around through the corridors, Crichton and Erin try to find a place where Dargo had been busy, and they meet up with a recalcitrant DRD who promptly glue guns Erin to the floor with her boot in her hand.
And it's still threatening her with its glue gun. She thoughtfully turns her head away and covers her mouth loosely with her arm to protect herself from Crichton grabs it, snaps its glue gun off,
promptly gets his hand stuck to that whole thing in the process,
and takes it back to Zan for analysis and says, okay, don't touch it, it could still be sticky.
Then we're stuck, then we'd be stuck together. Zan goes and does some analysis on it. Well, you'd think that they're they know what kind of things that the DRDs have on board, and they should know what this is, because it's just probably some sort of Moya repair glue.
Yeah, exactly. What else would it be? It'd be just Moya repair glue. But it also has some of the fairy dust that Dargo was covered in, because Zan has been collecting and analyzing that, and she notices that that's weird. There's some more on this glue stuff.
Yeah. He gets the solvent, which apparently is nasty stuff, and there's another little bickering, intimate moment between Erin and Crichton, where he's working on dissolving the glue, and it's all the latent, I don't know if it's sexual tension, but at least interpersonal relationship tension that they have going.
There's more chemistry than just glue and solvent going on, but this whole scene I thought was fantastic. I know that there's a lot going on in this episode, but we have never seen Crichton and Erin together for this long.
Yeah.
And while he's applying the solvent, he's not looking at her, he's focusing on his work. They're bantering a bit.
It's good you're being funny again.
Making jokes at each other.
He does have his smoldering eyes though, and he's kind of doing that under the eyebrows gaze that he does so well.
We should all be so lucky to have a science jock look at us like that.
Oh, let me guess, is that you being funny?
He's being very careful with her, and they're actually sharing a little heart to heart as well. They're not sniping at each other. All the barbs are kind of mild and minor. None of them are performative or exaggerated, I thought.
No.
We've never seen them be just this comfortable around each other.
I wouldn't call it comfortable, but because she's still pretty snippy about him, trying to get he's being careful in using the solvent, and she's being very impatient about it.
This is ridiculous.
Well, it's gonna work. Eventually. Trust me.
And I think he gets it, because she's the one who's trapped.
Yeah.
She's under stress, and he's in caring mode, and he's kind of letting her do it. This is what you. I mean, that's the feeling that I got, that he was comfortable with her. He knew her well enough to know that she gets stressed, she's going to bite. That's okay.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I'm going to give you that space.
So she finally manages to rip her hand free.
Yeah, Crichton takes credit for it. Hey, told you the solvent would work.
I mean, I suppose it is because in the next scene they're just washing it off, and now it suddenly comes off easily, apparent. But like,
yeah, it's not quite clear whether. I mean, she has a lot of that purple glue gunk still on her hand, and then the next time we see her rinsing it off, but
and
she's
they go like,
about
most of the solvent is gone now. Maybe she just dunked her hand in the solvent, but no,
yeah,
like I don't know.
Apparently, it strips you down to the bone.
Excuse me for being careful, but this stuff could eat through your skin down to the bone.
Okay, so let's avoid that.
It wasn't good for you, that's for sure.
In the meantime, there's another quiet moment between Dargo and Zhaan where he calls her Lolan.
Oh, yes.
Lolan.
Who's Lolan?
Who is Lolan?
Lolan?
Because clearly, he's come out of his deep space delirium. He's seeing someone else than he's actually looking at. He looks at Zhaan and he sees something we don't know.
He's very, very affectionate with. I think at this point there's also been a problem on Moya with the environmental controls.
Pilot, what is going on with Moya?
Yes, things have started to
fritz a bit. Things are getting colder, which you can see because Zhaan is wearing this beautiful fuzzy robe now.
Yes. Zhaan gets a lot. She tries all her outfits
but it's
this
all blue,
episode.
But this one suddenly jumped out at me because I don't think I'd seen this one before. The blue fuzzy dress, cloak, whatever it is.
It sort of looks like moss, doesn't it?
It does a bit, yes.
Yeah.
Someone maybe skinned a boa, skinned a stole or something. And
what, a boa?
Feather boa, you know?
Oh, okay, so not a boa constrictor, a feather boa.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's imagine that that's some sort of dinosaur or some kind of... I mean, the Peacekeepers have the Centhounds. Maybe they have feathered boas as well.
I mean, that would probably
be
a
feathered snake be like? Would that be pleasant? Or would it be...
Maybe it's just another kind of bird.
Okay, no, I'm being transported into a magical world that you're conjuring for me of feathered snake birds. Oh, I need to be tethered back to reality, much like Dargo.
Right.
We continue with Aaron and Crichton, who continue to have this heart-to-heart where they're talking about what disease is like. And this is some of the most Star Trek writing I've seen so far, where he's talking about what it's like on Earth.
How terrible it is with lots of people getting sick all the time and viruses running rampant. And Erin being like, oh, no, we don't have that. Because we are perfectly inoculated, as you call it. And if you our scientists come across a new one, then they make us a new inoculation for it.
Anti-substrate, prevent the growth.
And this is where we learned that apparently they are born and raised on ships, which I thought was a little bit in contrast with what we learned about the captain, who apparently was conscripted at a very young age along with his little brother.
You didn't choose to be a peacekeeper?
We were selected for peacekeeper training. It is a great honor.
What can we say except there must be multiple ways for people to enter peacekeeper service. Yeah. She does talk about how important it is to keep the bloodlines pure.
It's ingrained in peacekeepers from birth that we must keep the bloodlines pure.
Right, that comes up later, I think.
So I really liked this long conversation that they have. I mean, there's a lot of exposition in this episode in general. I noticed that even in the first few minutes, they talk about Moya being a living ship.
Man, I'm never going to get used to walking around inside a living ship.
They talk about being escaped prisoners. They're sort of resetting the entire premise, almost like us mentioning the entire premise at the beginning of every episode.
Yes.
It's a little spoiler for what we learn later, but the main premise of this episode was actually originally in the script for the first episode.
Oh, okay.
When it was sort of going to be a little button on the end. Oh, and by the way, Moya is... pregnant, as we find out.
Yes.
And then it was decided that it would be a shame to put that into an episode that already has a lot going on.
Right. I'm going to save it for give it its own episode.
Right. Yeah. And as they were thinking about the second half of the first season, what kind of we want to do more continuity. What can we do? Right. That is the moment that we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So this is actually kind of an on-ramp episode. I
guess it introduces a new plot arc.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's possible for some viewers to just start at episode 10 of season 1 and get it, because you get everything that you need to know.
Pilot, in the meantime, has gone a bit wrong.
Oh, he's looking queasy.
We went from being slightly delirious to just going out of it completely, and Erin moves up to check on him and actually starts playing around with the controls.
Yes, the whole ship starts listing, everyone's tumbling over, and she pushes on one of his push pads.
This must be roll control, and this must be yaw, and she starts just controlling the ship a little bit.
How'd you do that?
I think this control is ballast.
And this is illumination.
Crichton and Zan have a little aside from, she must still have some of his DNA.
Left of node that was completely washed out of her. And
was it?
Yeah, it was. Yes, exactly.
Kind of rude to be having a chat about someone while they're still on comms.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe they made the sign and now that
Oh, yes, you. For our listeners at home, he just made the sort of throat-slitting sign from Galaxy Quest, a very cool science fiction reference that we all
Which
get.
was also in 1999.
Yes, that came up in the Far Back Machine previously.
Yep.
Oh, I really enjoyed this segment, by the way. I really enjoy that you're sort of transporting me back to a more innocent time.
Speaking of not being innocent, we have Rigel going through Dargo's stuff again. Yes. Like he's just like
he's not even waiting for someone to die now.
He's just doing his usual shit, like going through like, oh, I like this or I don't like that.
I'm impressed that he doesn't go straight for Dargo's shoes and then spends 9.5 hours trying to unlace them, which is what he did with Crichton the last time that he was unconscious.
I mean, he is just a little kleptomanic, I guess. Like,
maybe he just likes giving the funeral rites, and we just missed like the previous 15 minutes that he was going, tolerated shipmate.
Yes.
Actually, not our hallowed realm. No, that's for Hynerians. Go find your own hallowed realm.
And Dargo wakes up, sees him, and what did I tell you about going through other people's stuff? And he's like,
what did I say about going through other people's things?
It's such a weird... I mean, for a second, you kind of think that he is angry, but he's just being stern and reserved. But there's sort of a cheekiness to it. Come here, boy.
Come here, boy.
Boy.
Actually, I noticed like it's a very late appearance for Rigel in the episode. It's like... we haven't seen him at all until this point.
Yeah, you mentioned that maybe the puppeteers were getting a day off.
Yeah, because that's like pilot's hardly in it, and after the beginning, and Rigel is to some
Rigel
degree.
Only shows up after pilot goes unconscious. It's as if the same.
Oh, maybe they were just doing one crew of puppeteers, so they had to do it all.
We're being mean. If anyone from the Henson Company is listening, we do actually know how it works, and we know that everyone is a professional who puppeteers their own character. Johnny Eccleston, please don't be mad at us. We love your work. We know that you're very special and cool.
So I went through a whole range of thoughts and theories during this scene.
I want to know everything. So what were your thoughts?
So my first thought was that he thought that Rigel was a pet or something, because he was like speaking to him with a chiding tone.
Oh, yeah.
And he was just like completely ignoring anything that Rigel was saying, like almost like he didn't hear it.
Yes, Rigel.
What is the matter with you?
Ow! How dare you handle me this way?
Johnny, you are so big.
Oh, my size is never a matter for discussion.
And Rigel's just like blathering on like he usually does, because like he pretty much ignores what everybody else says as well. So this was like a perfectly matched.
Yes, it doesn't even occur to him that he's not being listened
exactly.
to. Exactly.
And Dargo, who is obviously still in the throes of his space sickness, he's just like, he's speaking very fondly and a little bit humorously, and he goes tickle, 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 much to Rigel's chagrin.
A Lux and Noogie.
Yes.
It's like the only time that we've seen him like verbally express an emotion that doesn't involve hissing. He's going to...
True,
he's sort of purring now. So
he was. And he was also doing some... his crying was also a little bit weird, as we later on see on in the episode.
More hissing.
My next thought was that it was his kid brother that he thought he was talking to.
Oh, wow. That's a really good one. Yeah, it was very much like... His performance was very Big Brother energy.
Right.
I'm here.
Reassuring.
What did I say?
Yep.
Yeah. Very, very nurturing.
Very much so. And then, like, we learned that it was actually his thinking that he's talking to his son.
Yeah.
Which was the big reveal.
Yes, Jothi.
Jothi. We don't really learn anything because he doesn't say anything particular that has any relevance.
No, it's just very confusing for Rigel.
Rigel, yes.
Oh, I love his son.
Son? You think I'm your
son?
I kind of thought that Rigel's response was kind of the weakest performance in the episode in terms of, I think, the writing. Like, he just got to be exasperated.
Right. He had a little bit of like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't understand what you're saying. And it's like...
And that's all he got to do.
Yeah, it wasn't very... after he caught on to the fact that Dargo was, in fact, not being particularly
was not all there. Oh, yeah, very good.
Then he was just like being really confused and tried to make sense of what Dargo was saying, which was clearly quite difficult. So, as Rigel is being confused by Dargo, Zahn and Crichton are on the bridge going through Moya's blueprints, X-rays. I don't know what it is. They're big transparent sheets which apparently show bits of how Moya is working.
I love how you see Crichton sort of squinting at it and trying, like, holding it upside down. Like, what is it? It's some sort of like high-tech Rorschach test.
And we learn that Pilot has tentacles all through Moya.
Yeah, you caught that.
Which must mean that Pilot's pretty huge. I mean, if at least in biomass, if he's got, if he's spread throughout the ship, then...
well, the word was tendrils.
Oh, tendrils, not tentacles, right.
It comes sort of down to the same thing. But yeah, like that's one of the things that I think Crichton and Aaron talk about.
Pilot's tendrils run all through the ship.
So that must be how he's sensing the ship, or...
I guess that's how he keeps control of things. It must be the monitoring system for Moya, which, of course, like, she's a biomechanical entity.
Yeah.
And she doesn't really seem to have an actual control. Although that makes me wonder about the control surfaces in command.
Right.
I guess she doesn't come with a built-in operating system, or at least a control system, which would be Pilot then. So maybe the consoles are Pilot.
That is a good point. I mean, okay, so we've seen Aaron bring up the sort of rollerball ergonomic manual control column, but whenever they want to go to Starburst, they have to ask Pilot.
Yes.
So there must be some systems that Pilot controls and some that they can control directly.
So it's an interesting conundrum about how that works.
A new outfit for Zahn, by the way. She's got her science blue lab coat.
Oh yes, she does. You're right.
Or smock, I think. Yeah, it doesn't have an opening at the front.
No, it's got the buttons on the side of things.
That's right.
Like a proper mad scientist coat has. They talk about the particles or whatever it is that that they were dealing with, that Dargo got sprayed with at some point.
Yeah, and the initial idea that it may be debris from the explosion that blasted him out doesn't really hold water.
But no, it's because it turns out they actually contain Moya's DNA, genetic code, I don't know what it was.
They're literally part of Moya herself. Right. They're Moya tissue.
So at this point, I'm thinking those must be Moya's white blood cells or something, and Moya's contracted LIV, Levine infectionary virus.
Oh, whoa.
I mean,
Yeah, that is actually, Crichton called it that.
So you guys just zip around the galaxy hoping you don't pick up some STD, space-transmitted disease?
Yeah, we're hitting all the notes here. So we've got like family drama, we've got lost memory, we've got high stakes, we've got STDs and pregnancies. This is a space telenovela. Like, we've moved on from space opera to Estrella novela. How about that?
Is that the
Estrellas is stars in Spanish?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Australians kind of did a lot of daytime TV.
How could I miss that? You're right.
So this is right up their alley.
Oh, can we name a whole bunch? Come on.
I can
obviously Neighbours.
Flying Doctors.
Flying Doctors barely counts as a soap opera because it's got okay.
Well, later seasons definitely do, but
Home and Away.
Okay.
No. Okay.
I don't know any of those things. Sydney by
Sons
the Bay.
and Lovers.
Okay.
Sydney by the Bay. Oh, I don't know that one.
I just made it up.
Okay. Cool. No, I respect that. That is a valid strategy. And honestly, if you were going to there probably is a Sydney by the Bay soap opera, because I mean, Australia is not, in terms of population, it's not a huge country.
No.
But they sure do make great television.
Oh, if nobody else does it for you, you got to do it yourself.
That's the Farscape motto.
We have a scene between Dargo and Crichton, who also seems to be recognized by Dargo as someone from his past, someone who he is not quite so happy with.
Yeah, he does not get nuggies, he does not get kisses, he gets shoved up against the wall, and how dare you, because he's Macton.
Dargo, I'm not Macton.
How dare you dishonor your sister's name.
Yeah, there's something weird going on. So I guess it turns out that Macton's his brother-in-law.
And this is where we even in the music we got castanets at this point. So then you know, Yeah, Macton was his brother-in-law. We're piecing together that Lolan was his wife at this point. Now, what were you sort of reconstructing of the plot at this point?
Very little. It's just I was trying to figure out what the connection was to the crime for which he was imprisoned, which I think we have figured out by the end of the episode now.
Right.
At this point, I was just like wondering where it was going. There seemed to be some weird rivalry going on.
I was surprised how gentle the confrontation is, because Dargo is clearly very angry at Macton. But he doesn't shove him, he doesn't touch him, he doesn't attack him, which Dargo has done for far smaller slights.
Yes.
To Crichton, about whom he doesn't care and whom he doesn't hate.
Maybe it was a younger, more relaxed Dargo that we're looking at now, who's still processing back through his memories as they're slowly thawing in his head or something.
Anthony Simcoe did such a great job this episode. They frankly, they all did. Like, these are some great actors, and they finally got... I won't say they finally got the opportunity to show it, but they got an episode that was driven entirely by their performances amongst themselves, with each other.
I mean, that's literally all they had. It was all an on-set episode, nothing off-planet. Everything happens on Moya.
Yes,
or in Moya,
as we've
actually.
never seen her before. All the hallways are red now, and Crichton finds himself in the Fraggle Cave.
I was going to say it's more like the opening scene of Cats.
Cats?
Yes, where you suddenly see a pair of eyes lighting up in the darkness, and then another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. And he's like face down with a hallway which is completely full of DRDs.
He calls it a cave scene from Yosemite Sam.
Yeah, I can see where that's coming from, yes.
Uh-oh. Eyes.
Eyes.
Yeah, like a cave scene in a Yosemite Sam cartoon. DRDs. They're blocking the passageway. I gotta find another route.
And he frantically cries out to Aaron to turn off the DRDs.
Yeah, because they've been shooting at him.
Yeah.
They've been chasing him down. He does a long power slide down through one of those Leviathan tubes again.
Aaron!
Comes face to face with two more and is just able to whisper to Aaron to shut them down before they kill him.
Aaron, shut down the DRDs.
Don't be ridiculous, Crichton.
Just do it.
Yeah, she does so, and in the process, like, Moya is getting a lot darker, because apparently life support is shut down. The lights aren't all there anymore either. There's a little conversation about we only have as much air as there is around us, and I was like, well, Moya's
that
huge.
Seems like a lot.
That's not really going to be a problem anytime soon.
We have air in here.
Like, unless the docking bay is just venting into space.
Which I don't think that it is.
It's probably enough, right? Unless, she is under constant positive pressure. Moya is.
Yeah.
Maybe she's just not fully sealed. Maybe she's so competent in producing oxygen that you'd rather, maybe there's just constant leakage.
We talked about this. You need to get the mass. If you lose oxygen, where are you going to get the new oxygen molecules from?
Right.
It's like you can't make oxygen out of nothing.
No, you can electrolyze it out of something that
if you have
has oxidized.
Yeah, if you have CO2, then you can just turn it into oxygen and hydrogen. That's no problem.
You can electrically deoxidize it.
So you only need power for that, but you can't make more atoms.
You're right that it's getting darker. Maybe that also because Aaron is not in the pilot's den. Aaron, John, and Zan are having another housemates meeting in a new room that we haven't seen before, and the camera moves around them while they're lit from above, and they're discussing very seriously the repercussions. This was also like a Star Trek conference room scene where they're laying out everything they know, the peril that they face.
Yeah, lots of Dutch angles, lots of camera fades, lots of...
Camera fades was such a weird move.
Yeah, that's something they really don't do. It's like it's almost like conspiracy talk.
Except they're not really plotting against anyone, but they do come to the idea that maybe there's something wrong with Moya. Moya is starving pilot of nutrients.
Get him some nutrients.
I'm on it.
And killing them, and maybe something needs to be done.
As they're having this meeting, they decide to call on Dargo, who has apparently been walking around Moya, giving piggyback rides to Rigel.
Yes, to Rigel.
Rigel, where are you?
Getting a piggyback ride.
Well, see if you can get a ride back up to command.
who is exasperated when they finally call him. It has apparently not occurred to him that he can call them for help.
No, maybe that's below his dignity or something.
Picks up the phone immediately. He's wearing his pajamas at this point, I noticed.
That's what they are.
Which I didn't notice him having on when he entered Dargo's chambers for the
so
for the
maybe
thieving.
we had a little awkward little changing scene.
But yeah, so he's being exasperatedly carried around and gets instructed to guide the Luxon up to the command, so that they can try. Like, they don't really discuss how they're going to do it, but they clearly have some kind of strategy for, I guess, an intervention.
Maybe.
Because Crichton skulks in the back. He stays out of view.
Right.
And he waits for Zhaan to talk to him and ask him a few questions until like they can trigger his lucidity again. She asks him, like, where do you think you are?
Well, that's not exactly as I recall it. What happens is that Dargo immediately starts going off again with his various fantasies.
Yes, because he sees Zhaan and recognizes her as Lolan.
And when Crichton finally comes into the mix, he actually plays into his role. He starts playing.
That's right. But it comes in at the moment where Zhaan talks to him, pretending to be Lolan,
right,
and constantly like asking him questions as one does perhaps who's confused,
right, trying to guide one's thoughts, trying to figure out what's going on and where he actually is in his mind.
It keeps failing because Dargo keeps finding reasons to interpret it as a question that Lolan is asking, until she asks him,
"Where is he, sweet Dargo?"
Like, this is where I kind of clued into the title. Okay. They've got a secret, right? Once it arrives at a piece of information that Dargo actually wants to keep secret, that seems to be the moment where he breaks out.
Oh, okay.
And because he doesn't answer, he sort of stops. Crichton notices he's been skulking in the back, and that's when he comes in. First, he talks to Dargo like, "Hey, we need you." Sees that Dargo has relapsed back into his derangement, and then he does the same thing that Zhaan did successfully. Buy into the hallucination or dementia or whatever it is, pretend to be Macton, get him into a high emotional state again, and then try and it's sort of pace and match, the technique.
Yeah, because he clearly plays into the angry brother-in-law role.
Keep your hands off my sister.
Yeah, you're not worthy of my sister.
Exactly, stuff like that. And here is where we start to learn that, he had a son with, of course, a wife, as is traditional for that kind of arrangement.
Okay.
But his wife wasn't a Luxon.
No.
His wife's a Sebastian.
Because if Macton is a peacekeeper, then... Estrella novella music.
Oh, sorry.
Honestly, if there is a genuine telenovela with this kind of stakes and set in space, I would absolutely watch that.
So now we have established that interspecies kids is a thing. And I guess the whole keeping the bloodline pure becomes interesting as well. But can all species do this? Is this a Sebastian thing? Can Sebastians interbreed maybe just with Luxons or with anybody else? Or
right.
Like how? What are the implications for this?
So it may be advanced medical technology that if you just stop having disease, then this is also one of those things that you can overcome. You can do cross-species genetic mixing, but even on Earth, with species on Earth, that's difficult. Like, we have 26 pairs of chromosomes. Horses have, what was it, like either 14 or 50, different species. And we're all mammals, right?
Potatoes have 40.
Cool. Were you planning to have babies with a potato?
No, I'm just saying.
I wasn't planning to have horse babies, but that seems a little... Well, I'm curious. Do you think you're more likely to marry and have children with a potato or with a horse? Okay, serious question. Let's get into it.
Now, I do love me spuds, so...
Ooh, the horse actually comes up in this episode.
Yes, it does.
Horse and rider is what John says when Aaron asks him in another bit of Star Trek dialogue, "Do you not have anything like a biomechanoid on your civilization?"
Yeah, no, not really. We have horses. Yeah. And then there's a little bit of discussion about how they're used for transportation and labor. And so, you enslave them. Because no, we don't enslave them.
But we love them too.
Yeah.
You love what you enslave.
We don't enslave them. All right. Fine.
Yeah. Dargo kind of snaps out of it, and he shows them a picture of his wife and their kid,
which he digs out of his own chest.
Yes.
He has a holographic photo that apparently all of his jailers have missed, he can sort of finger out a literal wound in his chest. Dargo is so hardcore.
Well, I mean, he is like the ultimate warrior, Luxon.
And he has been a prisoner for 8 years, so he probably has lots of places he can hide
Prison
stuff.
pocket.
I'm very curious, but I also suspect that I know what you're talking about, and since this is a PG-13 podcast, I'm going to protect our listeners' delicate ears.
So Aaron goes back into pilot's chamber to do more piloting stuff and actually try to... They talk about disabling Moya's higher functions, which is it's kind of unclear what the plan is. Like, are they trying to lobotomize her? Are they what are they planning on doing to her? It makes very little sense. I
mean, initially it's supposed to be like a reboot procedure, but then Zan asks,
what if we can't get it up again?
Which I noticed that one of us really sniggered there. One of us was kind of tasteless there, I noticed.
I guess. I wonder who that was.
And the other one wrote it down and mentioned it. So who has the high ground now, I wonder?
Crichton goes on an exploratory trip. They find the place where Dargo originally crawled through the little hatchway for the scuttlebutt.
And Crichton is now prepared to go through because I noticed that he had a different jacket on. He has a full flight suit on.
It was a spacesuit on.
Yeah.
Which I think it might have been Erin's flight suit.
Yeah, I mean, it was her helmet as well. Yeah. And he already had a climbing harness, did you notice?
Yeah, he goes spelunking down through the Moya's tubes.
A couple of nice butt shots of Ben Browder in this episode, I've noticed, by the way.
Climbing around, he makes his way down the corridor, finds the shield that the enforcers have placed in there.
He goes crawling around a bit more, and he notices, as he gets to the end of the tether, he notices, like...
Oh, there's something else there as well.
There's something further down.
This, I thought was...
Weak.
I mean, yeah, right?
It's like
there's no real investigation, just stumbling along.
Right, and there's no explanation for what or why or how. It's like, apparently the enforcers put something there, but it's never explained what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
But he goes on crawling on further down into another tunnel, and he finds himself in a
cavern, he calls it. Huge cavern.
Yes. Erin, in the meantime, is frantically sawing away at Moya's brain meats or whatever it is that she's doing with the blaster.
The prism laser saw that we saw Dargo use previously.
That was it.
Nothing can resist a prism laser saw.
Yes, he's up there and just carving into the underside of pilot's console.
Control disk, yes.
Yeah.
John, Erin is through. She's beginning to sever Moya's higher functions.
Oh, yeah, because they said that she couldn't reboot her or something, but she
there's
had
no
to
shutdown procedure.
Yeah, she had to sever the controls, which at that point I'm really thinking, okay, like this sounds like you're trying to reboot an old PC and you're cutting the keyboard cord and then it goes like, no keyboard detected, press F1 to continue. You know, you're going to run into that kind of situation.
Yeah, it seemed like no one gave it a lot of thought. I mean, they didn't have pilot to ask.
No.
I did appreciate that Erin said, like, all I can do is just cut them entirely, which, as you say, lobotomizes Moya. But this can't be my decision alone. And she asks everyone else,
Cut them. Permanently?
This isn't my decision alone. If I do this, we all have to be a part of it.
And they go, and Crichton just says,
Cut them.
And they move on. Like, that didn't seem like they gave it a whole lot of thought.
No.
But I guess they are running low on...
It is rather peculiar, yeah.
On oxygen.
Crichton, however, in the meantime, finds the core of the problem, so to speak, or at least the cause of it. And
now, when you saw that, hold on, what did you think it was? Because we see this huge, like, cavernous space and this thing. What did you think it was?
I mean, we actually hear him say what it was before that we actually see it ourselves, I believe. At which point, my thought was like those boots he's got, those are boots of conclusion jumping, because like I would not have made that.
Yes, thank you. I absolutely agree. He has a jumping to conclusions mat from Office Space.
Exactly, and he just like looks at this weird.
What do you see?
I don't know, kind of UFO-shaped thing which is hanging around there.
Crichton, what do you see?
Yeah, in a sort of organic cathedral that was lit like...
Crichton, what do you see?
I mean, what could it be? It could have been another pilot. It could have been like an alien infestation. Yep. It could have been...
another peacekeeper device which would have been placed there. I mean...
Or maybe just an organ of Moya's that he's never seen before.
But he goes, nope, she's pregnant.
I think Moya's pregnant.
I guess maybe he learned something from the blueprints. I mean, it seems a bit of a far stretch. He also noticed that there's lots of DRDs clustered around it. And again, in another brilliant leap of conclusion, he realizes that those DRDs are apparently necessary.
The DRDs. The baby needs the DRDs.
It seemed like they just got in a rush, or that the writer or the directors, like, they just sort of ran out of time and rushed these conclusions.
It is mentioned earlier in the episode that it's not just Pilot controls the DRDs. Moya herself can also control the DRDs, despite the fact that they are not part of her because they are entirely mechanoid.
That's right. I mean, that's the whole reason that they had to shut them down, because with Pilot out of the picture, he's still unconscious throughout all of this. Moya apparently has control of the DRDs, or without her control, even like they're going murderous. So that's why Crichton had Erin shut them down.
Erin, in a kind of like flustered look, her hair all over the place, pulls her head out of the console and is like, what do you want me to do now? Like, do I need to stop cutting? No, stop cutting, and like and turn the DRDs back on. And
they're yelling at her for like 5 minutes, stop, which I've got to say is I never like in an adventure show when it comes down to people yelling at each other, and she goes, okay, fine, I've stopped, Jesus.
Exactly.
All right, stopped.
As if she couldn't hear like the tone of their voice and the panic through the radio static. Turns the DRDs back on.
Who immediately start advancing on Crichton.
Right.
One of them pops out a little DRD Gatling gun which starts spinning up.
Have a high five. Yeah, the little glue gun has been replaced with a Gatling, and also in Star Trek tradition, Crichton gets down, like disarms himself, and holds a little speech.
Oh yeah, he puts his big gun down right in front of the DRD to like show his peaceful intentions, and he starts basically monologuing towards Moya, like hoping that she can apparently hear him through the DRDs, even though he has no idea whether or not that's true or not.
I wish there was some way that I could communicate with you. Let you know that what you're doing to nourish your baby is killing Pilot. And us.
Yeah, just throwing himself on the mercy of reason and communication. And I know, I've harped on Star Trek a lot, but that's a thing that I kind of like.
Okay.
And I thought that he gave a good speech. Like,
it was.
We would never hurt you or your baby. We're happy that you're having a child.
We're part of the family. We're going to do everything to take care of you and the baby and everything like that. So, yeah.
But do we have to die for your baby to live?
Yeah, apparently Moya either didn't realize that or didn't want to, or it's a bit weird. But yeah, she turns the air back on. Pilot seems to stir again as he gets access to his nutrients or whatever it is that he needs.
And everything sort of returns to normal, which sort of suggests that all of the problems they faced, Moya chose to inflict those on them. Moya was nervous, or she was unsure what was happening to her.
Maybe that's what the Peacekeeper shield was. Maybe it was some sort of like IUD, which was like hormonal control for Moya.
Yes.
And like having that destroyed, and that might have disturbed everything. So like maybe that's the dust that the thing was collecting. It was like maybe some sort of pregnancy hormone, which is generally spread out. And now that it was suddenly released all in one go because the machine had been collecting it or something, it sent her into overdrive. And I should be a writer for the show.
Yes, you should. I mean, this is. Although, if that shield was an IUD, then. Ooh, what was Dargo crawling around in?
Well, actually, we're talking about fallopian tubes or somewhere else.
Yeah, they're sort of somewhere, like that's the same kind of sport, at least, if not the same ballpark. Generally with no balls involved except in a supportive capacity, when required for certain reproductive functions, such as in this case. Good. I'm trying so hard to stay PG-13. Are you proud of me?
Yes, very much so.
Thank you.
You are visibly struggling.
Yeah.
So with Pilot and Moya more or less back in normal order, there's another little scene with the crew. Everybody has a little reconciliation. Well, it's not really reconciliation because, like,
but it's the come down, and this time it's not melancholy as there's often been, and it's also not like a joyous or relief as there is in some cases. It's like they've really processed some emotions, particularly Dargo, who may have been repressing these memories. Like, it's not clear whether the memories that he was experiencing, whether that was a response to the pregnancy hormones or the pregnancy catalyst.
I think it was from the space freezing, but
right, because Zan determines that it couldn't possibly affect him because it's biomechanoid.
The particles are biomechanoid, just like Moya.
Aaron asks if she can see the photo, and Dargo obliges and shows her the hologram he has of his wife and child.
Lolan and Jothi. Jothi is a big boy, by the way.
I mean, we don't know how old he is.
You are so big.
Well, you've got this woman sort of shaped and sized like Aaron herself, holding in both of her arms a boy who looks, honestly, my size, almost.
Aaron actually comments that she's a very good-looking woman.
Yeah, Dargo snips back.
She's quite beautiful.
Does it surprise you that such a Sebastian woman would love me?
That's when you mentioned that the bloodline purity, that's something that she mentioned.
So that's what I was wondering about. It's like, is this why too much contact with alien species is forbidden?
Because, as you know, Peacekeeper High Command has very clear parameters regarding contact with unclassified alien life forms.
Because they don't want to run the risk of this kind of thing happening?
That is great. That had never occurred to me before. Yeah, that must be it. This to avoid this kind of fraternization.
Exactly. Like maybe this is just a Sebastian thing that they kind of like
peacekeeper, because it's like I don't know that the Sebastians have a problem with it necessarily.
No, but I mean, like maybe the Sebastian thing is that they can do a interspecies crossbreeding. That might be a Sebastian thing.
Oh, right.
And therefore, and I've never seen a non-Sebastian peacekeeper. Have we?
No.
No, so let's assume that, I'm operating on the principle that the peacekeepers...
Sebastians look human, peacekeepers have always looked human, so, yeah.
I'm operating on the principle that the peacekeepers are a Sebastian operation, or at least,
Yeah. And there are non-peacekeeper Sebastian colonies out there as well. Wow. No, you're right. So, because they're sort of keeping the bloodlines pure, that's purely ideological,
right?
Like that's something that that Aaron was raised on since birth. She was born on one of those ships. As you noticed, Grace was not. Like he was Shanghai.
Oh no, yeah, exactly, yeah. He was from one of the colonies, I suppose, or maybe the home planet, or I don't know what. No idea what went on there.
Yeah, so there must be self-replenishing soldier stock, I guess, with occasional fresh blood from.
Oh, that might be the case, yeah.
And we conclude this scene between Aaron and Dargo with, so we know that she was raised to oppose these abominations of essentially mixed marriages.
Yeah.
But she says she'll keep his secret because he hid his son on another planet so that the peacekeepers couldn't find him. And she tells him that she'll never tell.
Dargo, no matter what happens to us, I will never tell anyone about your son.
He had a secret, and now they have got a secret.
Right.
Sorry, no contractions yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, very beautiful.
I thought so too. I mean, I know that I've sounded critical of some of the writing and like the narrative shortcuts I think that were in this episode, but that's only because the episode itself, the writing was so strong, and it was such a beautiful like Luxan romance novel or a Luxance novel with appropriate tragedies.
Yes. And all condensed to like the B plot almost of the. It bears no direct relation to anything that happens other than the fact that it gets triggered by the events which also set Moya off.
Yeah, you're right. Dargo is not involved in the events with
not at all.
But everyone is involved in him and in helping him.
Yeah, they're melding more and more into a crew, whether they like to or not. They're just becoming a close-knit group.
I wonder what the relationship between Pilot and the rest is going to be, because he didn't notice most of this. He was unconscious for most of this. But they did save him, I guess. And,
they did. And Moya,
Yes, exactly. Yeah. They sort of bonded with Moya, which he's got to appreciate.
So Moya can cut off Pilot, so there must be a reason that she normally doesn't do that and accepts him for what he is. So, I mean, again, it might be like a horse who occasionally tries to buck off a rider.
So the way it was explained, so Moya is a biomechanoid. She could survive on her own.
Yeah.
But she needs Pilot. Oh yeah, she needs Pilot for the ancillary functions and the DRDs.
Yes.
So Pilot is there actually mostly for life support for passengers.
Right, but also piloting. It's like telling where the ship should go. Although maybe that might be able to be doing command. That's a little bit unclear.
Yeah.
So it's weird. So, was there anything in the episode that gave you a Willy or a Woody?
Okay, turning the tides. Let me see. I mean, my Woody's got to go to the. We got some choice butt shots of John Crichton like sneaking through. That certainly appreciated those.
Welcome to the Federation starship SS Buttcrack.
I guess also maybe a little fashion envy for Zhaan. She gets more outfits than anyone.
She did get lovely outfits this time round. She must have been, and also very subtle because they're all blue.
Yeah,
the texture is different and the materials are different, and there's a lot that's being said in that.
I think so too. Yeah, she certainly got a lot to do. She got to do science. She got to do empathy. She helped with the decision making. My Willy, I mean, that was certainly like the cave with the eyes, the Yosemite Sam Fraggle cave.
Ah, yes, all the DRDs which are clustered up against the walls and the ceiling.
What's everybody looking at?
Actually, I think it's even before that. There's when Aaron and John are in the kitchen or the mess, and they're having that long ass talk with each other. Like they look over, and there's these two DRDs that sort of look at them all kind of guilty.
Shifty-eyed, yes. One of them is fixing the other one, and they're kind of like spying on them almost. Yes.
Yeah, it's like cats who've been caught drilling for gold or something. Me? Why would I be drilling?
No, we're just sitting here.
I wasn't drilling, purring. I'm paraphrasing Eddie Izzard there, of course.
Very nice.
I liked that pair of shifty tentacled DRDs.
They were very cute. Like the DRDs, they're very animated and they have a lot of personality despite the fact of being just little scuttlebots.
And that's the story so Farscape.
We'll see you next week with episode 111, Till the Blood Runs Clear.
Yes!
After creating a wormhole, Crichton's module is repaired on a nearby planet by Furlough, while Voratian blood trackers attempt to collect the Peacekeeper bounty placed on their heads.
You can find us at SoFarscape on Twitter and Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. And on SoFarscape.com, where you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay.
So Farscape, so good.